Hello, this is Ben No here with Senh Duong and for EOB Quick Hits. Okay, first of all, we have James Wan. He made a deal with New Line Cinema to come back for The Conjuring 2, which is shooting next summer. So, what is your take, Sen?
Uh, well, I guess I shouldn't be surprised. I'm kind of surprised at first, but because I thought the first film was kind of self-contained.
Hmm.
But I guess with Annabelle being so successful, um, I guess I'm not surprised that they're bringing him back for part two.
Right. I mean, this deal is more than The Conjuring 2. This is like New Line Cinema and by extension Warner Brothers locking him in long term.
Um,
And The
that's
Conjuring 2 is just like one of those movies where you can do a quickie, I think.
um, yeah. Although you know what, thinking about it a little bit more.
Hmm.
I think it's kind of like the Avengers. This is like the Avengers of horror movies because
Okay. So you're still going by your line of thought about all the dolls.
yeah. Well, it's not just dolls. The film begins and ends with the couple.
Hmm.
They're in their in and that room full
Right,
of artifacts from
right,
their
right.
from their previous cases.
Uh-huh.
You know, and Annabelle was just one of them, and there are tons of other artifacts. They might not be dolls. They might be other things.
Right, right.
So the fact that the Annabelle did so well, I think they're going to move on to other artifacts in that room,
Uh-huh.
and have other spin-offs. And then I think when they do Conjuring 2, I bet you they're gonna focus on another artifact in that room to create another spin-off. That's what I think.
Well, you might be right, but I guess the question is, why would James Wan wants to come back?
Why would he want to come
Why
back?
would he want to come back? Because like he is right now doing Fast and Furious 7, doing posts, right? And with his resume, right, he could, you know, be directing the next Transformers movie, for example, right? So why would he want to come back to do The Conjuring 2?
Because the first one is not only a box office hit,
Mm-hmm.
a huge one at that.
Right.
One of the biggest horror hits in a
Mm-hmm.
while. But it's also very well reviewed, very
Uh-huh.
um, well regarded,
Mm-hmm.
and especially for horror films, that's what we wear.
Right, right.
And
Like,
so I think, and he is almost like the Wes Craven,
uh-huh.
of horror films now. Because
Right.
if you mention horror films, you cannot mention James Wan because he's had so many successful he created so many successful franchises.
Right, like Saw, right? The Saw franchise.
Like the Insidious,
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
um, and then and the Conjuring, and then he did what else? He did a couple other ones in between that were
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
pretty well too.
Right. So
Did he one of
yeah,
the
yeah,
ones?
like this suggests to me is like this is one of the a longer deal. One of these things where Warner Brothers wants to lock him in.
Yeah, yeah. I think anyone would.
He's gonna be their Jason Blum,
Yeah, Jason
right?
Blum,
The guy who directed. I mean, I'm not director. Who produces those horror movies like the
the
Paranormals?
paranormal ones.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, for Universal.
but I think he's actually bigger than that because the guys who did the paranormal films, that's all they have.
Mm-hmm.
James Wan he's created or directed multiple franchises.
Uh-huh, right. Well,
So
yeah, yeah. I mean, he has a range. I mean, not only did he directed them, he wrote or come up with a concept with a couple of them.
yeah,
So
yeah. So I think I mean, in terms of horror films,
Mhm.
I think he's up there. He's probably
Right. So he's like better. He's basically the new Wes Craven.
Yeah.
but even better.
Um, yeah, yeah, I guess you can say that because he's been so successful so many times, so
You,
consistently successful.
right, no, I mean, and he made the transition, to other genres, and which
Well,
was
that's
Craven
still,
couldn't.
I think that's still
Mm-hmm.
debatable whether or not he's successful because I think his first one, the one that he did with Kevin Bacon,
Mm-hmm.
um, dude, I forgot what it's called.
Something River, right?
No, it's like a vigilante, movie.
Uh-huh.
Um, like yeah, we can look it up, but
Yeah, yeah, no idea, because like Kevin Bacon, hasn't been in a movie in a while, I think.
right.
So yeah, what?
I saw it. I didn't think
Uh-huh.
it was a. There's a lot of horror elements in it,
Mm-hmm.
and I felt like it didn't need it. I
Mm-hmm.
felt like
Mm-hmm.
the tone was kind of off as a
Right.
thriller, like these
Right.
horror elements. So, and that one didn't do that well.
Mm-hmm.
So so it's still, of course, Fast and Furious 7 will do really well.
Right.
Because,
Right.
you know, be-
And not only because of Paul Walker's death. I mean, it's one of those
yeah,
movies which even before that, is a successful series.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. And we'll have to see how the movie turns out. If it doesn't turn out well, we will. Then
Right. Yeah. According to report, like like Universal is not set on
uh,
him coming back.
uh,
So it's like to be determined. But with this deal, he might not want to come back.
um,
That's what I'm thinking.
so I guess it depends. Yeah, with this deal, yeah,
Yeah.
especially with the Conjuring doing so well.
Right. Right. Like I say, The Conjuring is like something quick for him
Yeah,
to do, but like he would have the freedom to expand beyond that if he wants. I think.
yeah, yep.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay, let's move on to the next hit. Uh, Disney is making a new animated movie called Moana.
Uh-huh.
Am I pronouncing that right? Moana.
I don't know.
Uh, yeah, so it sounds like something that's Hawaiian, so I guess it'll take place in Hawaii.
Okay.
You know, and so it's gonna take place in the South Pacific world of Oceania. Moana sets sail in search of a fabled island and teams with her hero, the legendary demigod Maui. So it has some Hawaiian elements.
Yeah, and
So
some fantasy. Well,
she's gonna encounter like sea creatures, underworld, and ancient folklore. That's according to the Variety report.
that sounds pretty interesting.
Right, right. So I guess the important thing is this is made by Disney, Walt Disney Animation Studios, and not Pixar.
Right.
So
Pixar still has Finding Nemo, so you know.
no, Finding Nemo. Yeah, Finding Nemo is Pixar. This
Yeah,
is
yeah,
this is Disney. So you can say that the Walt Disney animation side is having some sort of resurrection, because of Frozen.
yeah. It is not just Frozen. The one that they did before that. Uh, um, Tango.
Mm-hmm.
No, that was a huge commercial and critical hit too.
Mm-hmm.
And then before that, there's Wreck-It Ralph. Well, not
Mm-hmm.
before that. In between, there's Wreck-It Ralph, and that was
Mm-hmm.
another critical and commercial success. So their resume has been, and of course, they reached their their high with Frozen.
Right, right. Well, this Disney animation, has always been good, right? But it's just like the luster fell off of them, with all the musical, I guess.
Well, I mean, before Pixar, they were really good.
No, no, they were, but I guess their formula stalled. People were, I mean, the reason why Pixar was so successful, well, not only because they're good, but they came up with a different formula.
Yeah,
Uh,
although you know what I did
mhm.
regarding the formula is kind of ironic.
Mm.
Disney animation department fell. Um, they
Right.
fell from their high, doing trying to stray from that formula,
Hmm.
the musicals. Um, I think one of the first ones they did was it what's the one with the underwater uh, they were trying to go more into anime and
That I think it's about Atlantis.
yeah, Atlantis, yeah,
Oh,
Atlantis. Yeah, um, so with that one, they try to go away from the usual Disney formula of
mhm,
taking, classic fairy tales and incorporating,
right,
musicals
right, right,
and more into cooler stuff, anime, and then
right.
it didn't do well.
Well, you know what? I think before the target audience was like the children, younger kids, and I think with something like Atlantis, they're trying to go for the older.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
So
so that's why like they're straying from their bread and butter, and I guess the built-in audience.
mm,
You know, with the family films,
yeah,
like their movies were, always a safe place for families to
yeah.
watch, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. The irony is they fell off because even though everyone's like, oh, it's, Disney, all they do is these musicals,
Mhm.
And then when they try to say, hey, we're gonna try to do something different, everyone's, they kind of, they stumbled,
Right,
and
right.
now everyone's like, the irony is, people want them to try something new, and then they try something new, and they didn't do so well, and now people,
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
and then the irony is with Tango and Frozen, they kind of return to their bread and butter, except in the 3D format.
Mhm.
So with uh, classic, fairy tales and musicals.
Mhm. Mhm.
You know,
Well, yeah, we'll have to see because like Frozen is kind of like an outlier.
well, I won't say it's an outlier because Tango before that followed the same formula.
Well, no, 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 it's true, but I think like Frozen hit a nerve that is I guess beyond expectation.
Yeah, it was beyond
You know,
expectation.
it hit a nerve about female empowerment, freedom, and
Uh,
it's kind of like what Brave is trying to do.
yeah, although it's a lot closer to Tango too.
Yeah, yeah. Except that it's
Tango
it,
was
it's
kind of
it's
about
much better.
women empowerment too. Kind
Right,
of
right,
she
right.
was trapped in this tower for so long,
Yeah.
and
I mean, personally, I thought Frozen was just okay, but it somehow went on to become widely successful.
uh, I liked it a lot.
Okay. All right. All right.
I
Right.
like Tango too, so I thought both of them were pretty well done.
Okay. So it's time to let it go. Okay. Okay. So well, anyway, this new animation, Moana, it sounds like a
That's what
spin-off of
Binh
Lilo and
did.
Stitch, I think.
Oh,
Because
yeah, like
settings, I think it's more in the oceans, and it doesn't have the sci-fi element. But you can see where it's kind of going. So.
yeah, yeah, I can see it going back more like the old fantasy
Mhm, mhm.
films, like Hercules, and where
Yeah.
they're where they're fighting these sea creatures,
Hmm.
fantasy creatures.
Right.
Like the hairy, uh, like the way Harryhausen films.
Hmm. Hmm.
You know,
Right. Right. And it's gonna sell a lot of toys.
they hope. Yeah, yep,
Yep.
yep,
Well, I
probably.
mean,
Yep.
there's gonna be this advertising, blitz.
Mm, yep. And it makes you wonder though, ever since ever since
Hmm.
uh,
What?
ever since Pixar came in, ever since Disney purchased Pixar,
Uh-huh.
and John Lasseter
Hmm.
became the creative officer of the Disney animation department too.
Right. Right.
And some people wonder if if Pixar is slowly losing its luster because maybe
Mm-hmm.
John Lasseter is focusing on resurrecting Disney's
Mm-hmm.
um, animation department, and his second in command or third in command is heading Pixar now.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes you wonder if that's the reason why Disney's animation department is on the, is rising while Pixar is kind of slightly stumbling.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know,
Well, I have my theories on that, but
and
we can probably,
there's
huh? And that is, when like a large company gets acquired by a large company,
yeah
yeah,
when
they ask you to fill out this form saying, okay, list out the movies you're gonna do until the end of time.
mhm.
So what happened is like those people sit down, like Pixar, sit down and say, okay, we don't have anything right now. So the logical thing to do is sequels, right?
Well, that's one theory, but I thought, what, I read an article that's very interesting about
Hmm.
that. At first, I thought that they became sequel hungry
Hmm.
just because the Disney heads wanted them to.
Hmm.
The interesting thing about that is actually the opposite. When John Lasseter when they were running Pixar before the purchase,
Hmm.
Disney actually was against sequels because they own the rights to every one of those movies.
Hmm.
So they didn't want them to do any sequels because then Disney, if they wanted to, they can make the sequels themselves.
Hmm. Hmm.
So they only wanted Pixar to come up with original films.
Hmm.
So then they can mine the sequels for direct to video
Right,
and whatnot, which they were very good at doing,
right,
and
right.
it was very profitable for them. And um, John Lasseter said they actually, when they were running Pixar before the acquisition, they actually wanted to do sequels. They
Hmm.
wanted to do Toy Story 2, they
Right.
wanted to do Monsters Inc. 2, but Disney wouldn't allow them.
Hmm.
So now that they're part of Disney, they
Wait,
can
wait,
finally.
wait a minute. Are you sure? Because like I thought, okay, before the acquisitions, right?
Mhm.
I think Pixar has a deal with Disney to release a certain amount of movies.
Yes, and Disney forbid them to make sequels because
Right, right, right. I guess that's the reason why is because like they can always do more, right?
yeah,
I mean, like if they, Disney, right? They're very good at monetizing their properties, and the more properties they have, the better.
yeah,
You
exactly. That's why they didn't want them to do sequels because they can do the sequels themselves.
Mhm, mhm,
But during the acquisition, during when one of the things that
mhm.
one of their leverage was, hey, if you don't make this movie, we're gonna make it ourselves. We're gonna
Right,
make
right,
Monsters Inc. 2. We're gonna make Finding Nemo 2.
right.
We're gonna make Toy Story 4 ourselves.
Mhm, mhm,
So if you don't make this deal,
mhm,
and then I think that's one of the things with John
mhm.
Lasseter is he's like, well, if you're gonna do it yourself, you might
Right, right, right. Well, it's more like one of these leverage things, and it's not because Pixar wants sequels. I think it's they're doing it because like they don't want to, give Disney more ammunition.
well, according to John Lasseter, they actually wanted to do sequels. It's just that they were forbidden. Well, according to the article that I read and according to the quote from John Lasseter.
Oh yeah, yeah, but I think it's because like he wanted to do sequel because then he can fulfill his the movie the numbers for
Well,
Disney.
I'm not that. From the impression I got was that um, they actually wanted to do sequels to certain films,
Hmm.
but their contract with Disney forbid them to do it.
Okay, so I guess we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. So that's the irony that now that they're part of Disney, they're cranking
Mhm.
out all these sequels, and people are like, why are you suddenly so why are we seeing all these sequels instead of
Right,
original
right,
films?
right. Okay, so that's it with today's quick hits. Until next time, and remember to subscribe. Okay, bye.
Bye bye. And those one quick hits, they were long hits.
Yes, we'll try to be quicker next time.
Okay.